that's what signifies a pro, not just having the pro card. It's actually competing, at least doing one show. So for me personally, like that's my definition of it, is going, get up on stage and do it. Now, unfortunately, there's no pro shows in Australia, and there haven't been for 6 years, and we have no idea when there's going to be another pro show at all, because there's not talk about it. So I decided to look at some shows, and the one that really resonated with me, and at this point, Rose and myself had already been doing the Go Figure podcast, was doing the Triple O Dynasty. A big fan of what those ladies do. So I know you've given a shout out, but I want to give a shout out to amazing experience. One of the best experiences that I've ever had competing in a show, to be honest. I got to step on stage with Olympians, one of my idols, Wendy Fortino. I got to meet my girl, Andrea Shaw, and like it was like a mini Olympia being there with, Whitney Jones, who we had on the podcast last week, and Sid Gillen as well. Like it was just an absolutely amazing experience. So it's one that I absolutely endorse. And, I'm glad that I was part of that inaugural process. Now, obviously, I placed third and fourth, third in the Masters and fourth in my first lineup against 3 other Olympians. I was stoked. And then we went on to do Tri-Cities as well, where I won the over 35s and got third next to like 2 other Olympians as well in my debut year. Right.
Yeah.
So we're back. So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, you go. No.
You've been, like I say, well, maybe speak a little bit over here, but yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, most competitors, especially the first year, sometimes they get next to last, dead to last. I mean, you did pretty good, especially your first 2 shows. And now I understand that, you focus on more things outside of bodybuilding, and your retirement. And we talked earlier, the personal reasons why you did it. I know it's, sometimes it's tough to walk away from the sport. I talk to you, say it's tough, but then you know what, your life state of mind is more important in a sport.
One of the most, and I'm so glad you brought that up, George, because it's really important to recognize that my identity is not an athlete. I don't identify as I'm an IFBB pro. I need those, letters at the front of my name. I'm so much more than that. I'm a mom, I'm a businesswoman, there's so many more titles, if you'd like to say, that for me are important. And, one of the things that I find can be quite unhealthy in the sport is the identity that some give themselves, okay, that they define themselves by, being a bodybuilder. And then when they do retire, I mean, this is not just with bodybuilding. You see this with other sports as well, like all sports. They're like, who am I? I've just invested 20 years, 30 years, my whole life getting to this point in my, career, in my sport. And I don't know who I am. Fortunate for myself, I've had some great mentors and I've done a lot of work on myself. So I lived a very balanced and realistic life leading up to this point. And, if there's any advice that I can give to anyone that's out there, make sure that you're not defining yourself by, whether you're a pro or not, whether you're a number 1 or number 10, that start looking at your values, start looking at outside of the league as well. So, because if you want to have longevity in the sport, you need to have balance as well as the extreme. And I think that's important to state as well.
Yeah, it's important to find, balance, longevity. The sport can be tough. It's mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially. So it really take a lot from you. Wait a minute, we have a couple of guests here. My first guest here, I'm gonna shout out my man KL the Wanderer. Shout out to him. He says, "Hi, George and Lisa." And here we have another guest. She has been on my live stream before. I hope maybe someday I get her on. That is the former women's physique champion of Miss Olympia, Natalia Puejo.
Hey, girl.
Lisa, good, says Lisa with a big heart, and it says, "Good evening, George and Lisa. Thank you." My man Kia has a question. He says like this. He says, He says, "Is that the real Natalia?" Well, it could be. Like I said, I've seen this. That's her avatar, and she has been in a couple of my live streams, and also she has commented. Like I said, I've said it before. Not a big fan, but I do respect her as an athlete. I have mentioned that quite a few times. But but we hope to maybe see her compete this year in the Olympia. Just the Olympia. Don't touch any of the shows. Leave them alone. But anyway, so the big question is, how your boy doing?
He's doing really good. We had a couple of shake-ups last year where he ended up in hospital and in ICU with pneumonia, and because of his half a heart that he's got, it's it's a fatal outcome if he doesn't get to hospital quick fast, because he only has like one atrium and one ventricle, so he doesn't have the other side of his heart. It wasn't developed. So so we got through that, which is great. And now he's kicking goals, George. He's going to be 10 in October. We were told he was going to give a 1% chance of survival to make it to 10, and he's thriving. So God bless. I couldn't be more happy.
Well, you should be, because you know what? A boy's best friend is his mother. Mine's was, and I miss her every day. I think about her. It's going to be 6 years coming up this summer since she passed. And he has you in his corner, and that really matters to him. I mean, I like I said, my mom, like, we used to sometimes used to argue sometimes, little things like I used to say like this, like, "Ain't I a man, mama? Ain't I a man?" I said, "No, you're my baby." I said, "I thought it was a man, mama." But she understood that. She used to tell me this, said, "Son, I wish you didn't do this. I wish your sisters do what need to be done. A man shouldn't be doing this." But I said, "Mom, everybody else got their lives and doing this, so I'm the only one here. I don't got no kids. You're my responsibility because you were my woman, and that was my responsibility to take care of my woman. So I love her, and it's a good thing he has you." Here, this is for my man KL. He says this. Shout out to KL the Wanderer. He says, "Best wishes, Lisa, to your son. Thank you, brother." And also, I think he's addressing Natalia. He says, she needs to come on your show. Well, maybe, but the one person, KL, you know me, you know who I want on my show, and I would love to have the lovely Miss Andrea Shaw. That would be
I'll
my dream.
introduce
Yes,
Andrea for you.
yes, I will. Yeah, I would love to have her on here, because I remember my friend Eunice was at the last year at at 2023 Olympia, and still have that issue. I need to put this in. I don't know why. I just hug it every time I do my interviews. I want to pull it, because you know what? I love the fact she took the time. She even know me, and she took the time and wrote in this thing and tell me how much she appreciated my support. And maybe someday I get to meet her. I don't know. I might act like some stalkerish kind of guy, but I'm not. I'm a fan. I think she's a lovely lady. She
She
represents
is
herself in
an
the division.
incredible human. She's an incredible human. She is, honestly. She's one of the good ones. She's authentic. She says it as it is. And, she's just a all-rounder, beautiful woman. She takes time out for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good, because you know what, bodybuilding needs that. It needs some good representation, because, as you know, it's always getting the black eye on it. We were talking earlier, the young lady who passed away, Jody Vance, at the Arnold Classic. And personally, I'm not a fan of the Arnold Classic. I will keep saying this. I love Arnold's movies when I was growing up, but I don't like his politics when it comes to the women's division. And
Yeah.
and this is just something. Yeah, we talked about how this happens quite often. Surprisingly, people don't think it happens quite often in sport. I remember one time ago, a young lady who passed away in Spain in kind of the same condition. Elena Havani.
Yeah.
And it is something that I'm like, Monday I'm going to do. Usually I have my podcast, Much Talk Mondays, where we talk about stuff like this. I'm going to talk about this and also some other situations that's been going on, where I think the NPC should step up and put in protocols and maybe education. Because I think a lot of these young competitors, they need that.
There's a duty of care that you have as a federation. And whether that you're the, NABA, IFBB, Pro Official, whatever federation you're in, you have a duty of care to your athletes, right? So at least you're crossing the T's and dotting the I's. And there is no one at the top end that's actually talking about this. Okay, we've had 274 NPC and IFBB athletes pass in the last 4 years since 2021. I've counted every single one of them, right? And these were deaths that could have been prevented. And so what education is being put out there at the moment? Why is, let's say in some of the categories, and I'm going to talk about this now because I'm on the outside, why are some categories getting bigger and harder? And George and I kind of have a little bit of banter about this as well. Sometimes we agree and sometimes we disagree. But figure, if you look at figure over the last 10 years, how much it's evolved and when does it stop? Right. And then you're looking at wellness, when wellness first came out and where wellness is now, like the girls are getting bigger and harder. And I truly believe that the league is also responsible for this because they keep rewarding the monsters. They keep rewarding the big girls and the hardest ones that are on stage rather than just the criteria. Right. So how are we going to moderate it? Because then these girls are pushing for that next thing. They're like, well, I need to be bigger than that person or leaner than that person. And then, they're taking extreme measures to push themselves into a position where they've got a chance for that Olympia title or that first call out or whatever their goals might be. Now, I'm not putting it all on them, but I'm just saying there is a duty of care, okay, that needs to be spoken about publicly and addressed, number one. Number two, what the fuck are the coaches doing? Like, what are they doing? How are they grooming and educating their athletes? And number three, athletes are also responsible. Do your work. So it's not just a one-person situation here, but it has to start from the top. Mm-hmm. And there needs to be a culture that's, developed. And I know for me, myself personally, I was not going to push myself into a space where I didn't want to go that would impact my health, right? That, using PEDs that are excessive and, if something happens to me, who's my son got?
Right.
And for what? Am I going to win $500,000 or have a chance at it? Absolutely not. So
you'd be lucky because one thing this year I think the Triple O's put up $9,000 for figure, but that's not much after you put in your costs to travel to the shows, to getting prepped for the shows, and right there just post the show. As I say this, I'll keep saying this: the guys got to wear banana hammocks and board shorts and tanning. Y'all ladies have to have a presentation where you have to have femininity, you have to have looks, you have to have your makeup done, your hair done, your suits right there. That's not anything. Now, if it was like something like what Derek Lumford got at the Arnold Classic, hey, it's a good chunk of change. Hey, you can really live off of that for a good while after you take out your taxes. But you're not going to get that because I keep saying this: the men's division is going to be the bottom bitch. It's the one that gets the attentions and the sponsors and the promoters to go behind it. And I wasn't talking about how, as you said again, that you were at the Triple O, and this was the lady who won it, who was at Triple O Women's Physique that year. That is Ann Gruber, and this is Tessa Metz, the Charlotte Pro, because this year Charlotte Pro is not going to have women's figure, or they dropped it. Now, if you look at these two women, you say to yourself, now one is figure, one is physique, but if you look, they can either be one or the other. One could be bodybuilding, one could be physique, or both could be physique. It's just it's just
what the lines are very skewed. Yeah, it's not separate. Like if you look at the criteria for each of the categories, because everyone's been evolving and changing, has the definition, even though the words are still there saying that we want no striations in figure, and we don't want deep cut separation and a lot of mass, has that been distorted over time? And if that's the case, great, well, why don't you evolve the criteria then to match what's being rewarded?
Because
Okay.
not everybody, yeah, because not everybody can stay that hard and conditioned like that. If you have a certain criteria you're supposed to stick to, where okay, you're supposed to be more softer, still lean, but not too hard,
Yeah.
not too styrated. If you're looking at, right now, as you heard, Mrs. Prescott jump over the figure,
Yeah, we've had her on our
and
podcast.
yeah,
Adore
you
her.
had a podcast, yeah, and this is a big move for her. She's been a fitness competitor for a long time. And then you look at the top three at one time at the women's figure at the Olympia. I don't why can you say women's figure? This ain't figure. There's men's figures. They call it men's classic. But if you look at where it was, you had Sid Gill at the top, you had Jessica Reyes Padilla, and you had Lola Montez. And now with Sid out of the way, I think now whoever becomes champion is going to be the person they're going to chase after
Yeah.
for like if you look over at the women's physique now with Sarah's champion, now it's gonna be a look that everybody wants to chase after.
And they're very extreme bodies. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking anything away from these athletes. They're amazing, incredible. But is it the criteria? Me personally, I don't believe it is. I don't believe it's what the criteria is. I know when I got into this sport, what I was looking at on stage and what was being rewarded, and that matched the criteria. What I'm seeing right now is big, hard, striated, vascular women winning the figure category, which, being awarded. And again, I'm not taking anything away from these athletes. They're beautiful human beings and they've just got great physiques, but there's this distortion. So now we've got all the newbies and all the rising stars coming through the ranks and all the, the next generation coming through, and they're looking at them and they go, I've got to be bigger than that. I've got to be leaner than that. I've got to be better than that. And it just keeps going. Now, in the contrast, and I'm going to say this, I have had the opportunity to compete in every federation, George, in 26 years, from natural federations to non-tested, you name it, the whole works. And, if I'm looking at the evolution in some of the other federations, like even PNBA or OCB or NABA, and I'm looking at the athletes over a 10-year span in each of those respective categories, I'm going to be honest with you right here, and I've seen it, is that there isn't an evolution. They're not getting bigger. They're not getting harder. They're not getting more striated. Like they're in those respective categories. With NABA, for example, you've got three types of figure. You've got figure toned, you've got figure athletic, and you've got figure trained. So that they've got ones like you still figure, but just different amounts of size and conditioning with that, which I think, well, that's great because there's something for everyone. And so if something like the pro league's looking to evolve without the distortion of what's happening right now. Like instead of adding fit bikini in, how about add something between figure and physique? So you've got a classic figure and then you've got the normal figure, and the difference between the two is one does the muscularity round and one just does the symmetry round.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's just my opinion. I'm just having an opinion, right? That's just my opinion. I'm not
Well, like
saying
I
that.
said, well, you have the right to your opinion because right now you're not in the game. You have no
Right.
skin in it at all, but you have the right to your opinion. Here we have a comment from a man, KL the one that says they both look physique. Yeah, they kind of, Also, he says this. He says, Lisa, how do you think what figure should be? And I think she just kind of mentioned that. And
Yeah.
also, he says, what was your best show, Lisa? So, what's a show you feel like that really, just any show you feel like it really was your best, in your opinion?
So, okay, are we talking best about the best experience, the best body, all of the above? Like,
All above. Pick a show. Pick anything.
wow. Okay. So, I would say that my best experience and the best look that I personally had that I wanted was at the Triple O Dynasty. Absolutely. The experience was second to none. I felt like I was at an Olympia. I was treated like a pro. I got to meet all of my idols as well, and the package that I brought to the O was right where I wanted it, because I have the capacity to kind of get up on stage really striated and flat and lean, ripped, but I've never had that full look. And so that was something that I really wanted to bring out this time round. And I got to do that. I got to bring that full but feminine look. And I was still lean and I was still conditioned. And for me, that was the best look.
You look
And
really
that's what I
impressive.
meant. Sorry?
Yeah, you look really impressive because I did watch that live stream because I was there to support, because they had, just support the, women's bodybuilding and figure and physique having
Yeah,
a show for themselves. Especially, it was like I would say it was like a middle finger to the Arnold Schwarzenegger classic. But
it was. It was a big to the Arnolds.
you. But this year they're not going to have women's physique because they don't have a sponsor for it. But
That's fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I know a friend of mine, and you met her. That's Eunice Kitchens, a bad
Oh,
rap.
love Eunice from Bad
Eunice
Rap.
is,
Bad Rap Girl.
Yeah, Eunice is doing some good work. She's right now putting up, I think, some prizes, and also she's also offering the, so she gets new jerseys coming out, and she's offering to the winner. I think women's bodybuilding. Also, she may do fitness too. But it's good that someone's stepping up and doing something for his sport because it needs a lot of help, attention, whatever it gets. I mean, as you know, just bodybuilding is not as popular compared to other sports. Most people don't know who's Andrea Shaw is. They don't know who's, Sid Gillen is, or Whitney Jones, or Whitney Fortino, or Derek Lundford. I think one person you do know is, that's, Chris Sebum. You know him, yeah,
Mm.
because he's very popular. But if with this, as you know, the new division coming in, the football division is, I think it's trying to get more broad recognition. Where you can bring in the everyday gym goer who wants to compete.
Yeah, look, I think you've got to find your lane and then stick to it. Like, if you want to be the big monster freak show kind of like federation, then stick to that lane and be that. If you want to uh, become more mainstream, then there has to be continuity across the board. Otherwise, there's a lot of mixed reactions happening, right? So you've got one end where you've got these big GI Janes, and then you've got the other end where you've got these, itsy bitsy little bikini girls, um, and all beautiful, all amazing. But what I think it is what is the IFBB message? Like, what is their signature, whatever it is? You know what I mean? Are we mainstream? Are we the natties? Are we the big freak shows? Like, there just seems to be like it's all in one big package. We want to be everything, right? And I think we were speaking off air, it's like you can't be everything. It's like me taking a step back so I can work on the business and work on the back end, provide opportunities and sponsorship for athletes, and focus on my career. And I couldn't really do that and be an IFBB pro, because I would be promoting even if it's through my business, I'd be promoting other federations, other athletes, coaching them, right? So that would I couldn't have my cake and eat it too. So